Good evening, everyone. Let's head on into Collectively Rewilding. All right. There we are in Collectively Rewilding. I'm pretty sure most, if not everybody here, has RSVP'd already to our new group event. And if you haven't, definitely be sure to do so. Now, I was not planning on this, but Anita shared an article yesterday that was quite interesting. And it talks about this gentleman. He's retired. He's from Brazil. And there was just a lot of trash in his city. They didn't really have a great set of systems to deal with their recyclables and their wastes and everything, right? So goodbye to electricity bills. In Brazil, a homemade solar heater made from plastic bottles has already changed thousands of lives. Really great story. I recommend you all read that, right? I just read through it when I was trying to get caught up on my notifications. It was a very good read. However, the link that is in it, and I think this is it right here. Yes, okay. So we're going to close that ad there. And this link here towards the bottom of the article somewhere, I thought, or maybe I had to take it out and do a search. Okay, so I did have to take it out and do a search. So finally, I did arrive at the overall instructions for this process, okay? Really neat. And this has a step-by-step type of a technical manual, and anybody can do it at home. Pretty handyman style intensive, right? You definitely want to have experience dealing with your pipes and things like that as not your plumbing, because it's not legal for us as individuals who aren't plumbers, who aren't certified plumbers, to deal with our internal plumbing at a certain point, right? Like you can fix your toilet. We can probably even replace toilets if that's not that big of a deal, replace shower heads, things like that. But it gets to a certain point where you're not supposed to touch it. Certainly when you're talking about piping for your gas systems and things, which from my understanding, sometimes plumbers have something to do with that, and it just gets all sorts of complicated. So you want to know what you're doing if you're going to be getting this all together. And it's interesting because the instructions are in English, but the diagrams, the explanations of the diagrams are in Spanish, probably a Brazilian form of Spanish. Well, hello, Maurice or Mo or both. How can we help you?
Well, I got here late, and I formally apologize for that. But I wanted to know what's the topic, what's going on here, what are we talking about? Because we're talking about piping right now, and I do have expertise on that. But what are we piping for? What's going on here?
This is for. Let me just go right up to the top so I can give the exact right.
I'm sorry for holding up the conversation, though.
Oh, no.
I really want to know.
This is really great, actually, to have someone that has that kind of experience here with us on the conversation. So the manual on the construction and installation for a solar heater made of disposable packaging.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You can see the system here, right?
Yeah,
You've got
that's
like
something.
a reservoir, it looks like, here for the water. And then you've got these pipes that go into these probably like Coca-Cola plastic bottles. Some of the pictures have been better than some of the others, right? You can see it a little bit more
Oh,
clearly.
wow. Okay. Yeah, I see it now. Yeah, I can really see it now. I expanded my screen a little bit. What's up, Ben? Little bro, what's happening? Okay. Yeah, I see that. And they're doing this all out of glass bottles. Is that glass
No,
or plastic?
plastic. It's plastic bottles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
And
That's
then
pretty awesome.
it has some other type of container inside of it that says 100 plastic bottles and 100 milk cartons. And
Okay.
I believe that's what's inside. You can see there's something inside these bottles, right? I
Yeah,
believe.
they're insulated by something. Something
Hmm.
is insulated that,
And
or
they like
in
paint it
there.
in
Yeah,
black, right?
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they
Mm-hmm.
run the water through it and it helps to heat their home, and they've lowered their electricity bills by 30%. And this guy's gone all over Brazil and talked about it, and they've implemented it, and he got them started
Yeah,
with the recycling set of systems that they hadn't already had on top of doing this. And a very
that's
neat
very smart.
story,
That's
right?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
ingenious. That's so ingenious. Thank you. Okay, I'm on point
absolutely.
now.
No,
I'm not
you're
gonna
great.
interrupt you. I'm right here though.
You're great. And if you have, anything that you want to contribute, always, we love to hear from everyone. So don't
Oh
even
yeah.
worry about that at
I
all.
just I came in on the piping part and I was like, oh yeah, you probably have to pull permits once you go into once it gets to, you don't have to pull permit like you said, like you were saying, like change a toilet or change shower heads or
Right.
sinks or all that. You're good at, you only have to pull permits if you're going after the water main, or if you're going past the pipes that are in your basement per se, like the gas pipes and all of that. You got to call PG&E and all of that, or
Mm-hmm.
or whoever your your gas company is, and your water company is for piping and all of that, because they're not going to allow that. You have to pull permits, which costs a little bit of money. But if you're out there like those people are, I mean, I'm pretty sure
Right. They're
those
in
permits are
Brazil, so we
easy.
have no idea what their kind of
Yeah,
limitations are,
exactly,
right? And so
exactly.
just for the people, because this is more of a podcast, and so I want to kind of describe this for anybody that's just listening.
Oh
So
yeah,
it is a row of, oh goodness, I want to say at least close to 30 bottles. And he has, as the original design, 4 rows of clear plastic bottles with what looks like the milk cartons painted black inside those bottles. And the bottles have the bottoms cut off, and
yeah.
they make a tube over these cartons. And it is then
Hmm.
attached to a hosing system that's attached to
Right.
a reservoir, and it heats the water through the solar, right? So very,
Yeah.
very neat system that he's got here. And I'm
Yeah,
going to
that's
share all these with you
yeah.
guys.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna shut up.
No, no, it was wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
conversation there. And these are actually the schematics for it, but the diagrams are explained in Brazilian, Spanish variation of Brazilian, or I mean, excuse me, a Brazilian form of Spanish. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do a little bit of
Probably
research,
it's
right?
probably Portuguese. It's probably
Is it Portuguese?
Portuguese.
I wondered. I
Mm-hmm.
wondered. I knew that Portuguese was spoken in at least 1 or 2 of the Latin
Mm-hmm.
American countries, right? Okay,
Definitely.
so we've got this, and let's grab this one here as well. Just make sure I've got both of them. I'm pretty sure I did get this one, and I'll post this for you guys on the
Cool.
article that Anita shared. That's the story of this whole process this gentleman undertook.
Thank you.
Absolutely, really, really neat situation that this gentleman has created for his entire community, perhaps even the state to some degree. I'm not sure, or the country, right? So really neat. All right. There you are. Both of those PDFs, one a little bit more of the story, but with some details that are kind of important in there, and then actual schematics and diagrams and things like that, the instructions. Really neat, really neat. Now, for what we're going to jump into for the rest of the session today are a few things that had not completely been planned, because I'm going to be hopefully starting to do some work on the actual Wally Peony. And so we're going to read one of the articles that I have pulled up. Let's get an actual Wally Peony article. All right, here we go. Let's just take that text out of there and get to the base website page. All right. And these are actually, Wally Peonies can be built out of reclaimed or repurposed windows It's very easy to locate them in your area. All I did was go into Facebook's marketplace and searched reclaim windows. And there are so many options in my area and every area that I've researched, rural being my hometown, this being a relatively populated area and only 45 minutes away from Salt Lake, the capital. Lots and lots of options for reclaimed windows that are very reasonable to use as a portion of the Wallipini. And then let's just go ahead and dive into the truth about Wallipini and geodesic dome greenhouses, right? Like that sounds like they may be not having a super strong argument for a Wallipini, but that could be wrong. Please, Miss Tammy.
Yeah, I just have a real quick question. So, like, I live in the mountains. Would I be able to uh like have a Wallipini? Like, do I have to be like literally like level like you?
I mean, I
Like,
don't know what the Wallipini would do to benefit for you because
okay,
it traps heat, right?
okay.
And you'd want the reverse of that. So a sunken garden without a topper would draw cool into that area.
Like a geothermal, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I was watching a couple of videos where like it's kind of like a Wallipini, but like it's like down in the ground and then you walk down into it, but like you have like a water system, I guess, that you collect from your rain or something like that. I'll post it, but that's what I was asking. So like,
So, but
yeah.
is the geothermal system generally, you're looking more towards heat with a geothermal system from my experience. Was this one that cooled it though? I
Well,
could see
like
how that might be possible.
I was watching desert stuff, and this
Okay.
gentleman lived
Uh-huh.
in the desert, and that's something that he had because like it gets hot above, but when like you go lower, it gets
Mhm.
colder. Well, at least I think from what I understood.
Yes, as you progress down into certain depths, that's why caves they tend to have a similar temperature year round, about 50 to 60 degrees, kind of no matter where they are, unless you get up into the Antarctic and things like that, right? Okay, so geothermal cooling. Let's see if there's, here we go.
He
Okay.
said he had to do like at least 6 feet down. Like I'll post a video, but
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So in the Ice Age, if you went about 6 feet down, you met permafrost, which is land that is, or ground that is never unfrozen. It is frozen year round. You can reach layers of permafrost in certain areas of our globe still today, but we do not have any in Utah or California. I don't know that they don't have some maybe up in like Minnesota or Alaska would almost certainly have areas that you could, if not the almost entire state, dig down and find permafrost, right? And so geothermal cooling uses underground pipes to absorb excess heat from a building and transfer it into the earth, providing efficient and renewable cooling. Interesting, because that would be valuable here in the summer as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Wallapini thing. Like, I'll post it for you. Like, he had like steps and stuff, and what he did was he collected the rainwater, and that's when you live in the desert, sometimes you're in that type of environment where there's no water. So he just collected so much water, and that's what he was using basically for his geothermal, and then he would have like a thing like.
Heating or cooling right there. See that? It can deliver units of heating or cooling. Because what we were just talking about with that story that Anita shared, right? Okay. And I'm not cutting you off, Tammy. This is like all a part of that conversation, right?
Oh,
So,
no, you're good. I just was curious about it because I was thinking about doing that, but I'm on a hill. So I don't know if like does it have to be like on flat land? Okay. And if I
no, but
did
you would definitely have to make accommodations for the
that,
sloping.
yeah, for sure. I just didn't
Okay.
think like if
I
I was
actually
uh,
think that you could do some really neat things depending on how large your slope is. You could build a modified earth ship style greenhouse and utilize the geothermal for cooling and heating, because it does get cold there in the winter on the desert nights. It's probably very cold, right?
It
In the
does.
middle of December
It
and
does.
January, it gets pretty cold,
Um,
right? Doesn't it?
Like it's California, like
No, I
sunny.
know, but I lived in California, and if you go up in,
Yeah, it's cold.
it
Yeah,
gets down to at least like below freezing, but not below zero, like 20s maybe, right?
no, it's not that cold.
It doesn't get down into the 20s.
No, it's Daryl. What does it get up to? Like, Daryl would know.
Okay, so let's just put, what is your zip code, my lady?
What is the coldest that it would get here in the wintertime when we don't have we didn't have any insulation? Okay,
Right, but like, what is your zip code? And we'll look it up.
It's 92311.
Okay. Coldest.
Oh, we have Candace in the house.
Nice.
Yay, Candace.
That's wonderful. Lots of interaction from people we only get to see occasionally. Very fun. Okay, so we're doing well, and yourself? Or I'm doing well, I shouldn't say that.
Well, she was speaking to me first, but I appreciate everybody. Good evening, everybody. I'm late to the party.
Well, we're just getting warmed up, so don't even worry about it. We're looking at the lowest temperature that it gets to yearly for Tammy's zip code here. And so the lowest on record was just a year after in the year after I was born. It wasn't a full year after I was born, and -25. Average winter temperatures between 21 and 47. So I was relatively accurate there, my lady. I do have a good feel for the temperature.
You're probably more right than me. Like I don't really get a temperature.
Yeah.
Like
I paid pretty close
coldness.
attention, right? And it was always funny to us how everybody felt like it was just so cold. And 21 is cold enough to definitely be having on a coat and everything, but it would be in LA and it'd be like 56, close to 60 degrees, 62 degrees, and people would have on full puffy coats and, scarves and mittens and a hat and stuff. It was just kind of a funny situation coming from Colorado winters, right? But yes, you can get down to as low as 21 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 11 degrees below freezing, and you can have snow at 38. So that's your nighttime temperatures, though, not your daytime temperatures. What was that, Tammy?
Yeah, we've had snow, but California, we don't really see snow that often. But
Right.
within maybe 3 years or so, I think I've seen it maybe once or twice. But yeah, when it snowed, it did snow, and it was pretty cool.
Right. And it really shuts things down because they don't have as much moisture in general. And so there's all that oil and everything. When we were in LA and it snowed, they shut the schools down, the freeways down, everything. We couldn't open our garage door. It wouldn't open. It was frozen because all of their systems weren't set up to handle that freeze, that level of freeze, right? Like you see 21 degrees, yes, but if it gets down to 21 degrees and there's no moisture in the air, it's a big difference between 21 degrees and there's moisture in the air, right? And so everything froze.
What is yours? Is it colder than mine? Or is yours?
We can get below 0 here in Utah, and up in Wyoming we reached -21, maybe -23. I know we reached -21.
You guys are brave. That's all I have to say.
Look, I'll take cold temperatures every day over hot until we start pushing up beyond Alaska, right? The heat kills me. I can keep putting more and more clothes on, and the heat in the house feels good, but then I freeze with the AC. So I love the spring into the early summer and then the late summer into the fall, but it's easier for me to deal with the middle of the winter than the middle of the summer, I guess.
Yeah, I'm so opposite. Me, I can't really move during the winter because my muscles and my bones. So when it's summertime and it's sunny, that's where I thrive. So the winter, I'm kind of I don't want to go outside. It's too cold, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put some sweaters on.
Different types of physical situations, right? Like you got to protect your muscles and everything. Keep them lax and stuff and warm. I can
Yeah.
completely understand that.
For sure. I got my husband, you know?
He can rub some laxity into those muscles for you.
Yep, for sure.
That's wonderful. All right. So then did I share this in here for you guys already so that you can grab that? Yes. Okay. So everybody has access to that. And geothermal, really funny because again, this is a use of a type of geothermal heating the house, right? So really, really congruent kinds of topics there. Kind of fun, actually. That was pretty neat. All right, guys. So last week, I believe, either that or if we missed last week because I wasn't feeling well, the week before, whichever, our most recent Yarn Yard for Tall Tales, we tried to read an article out of Mother Earth News, and I just was unable to find it. It wasn't in the contents menu. It's only listed on the front page. Isn't that funny? And if I would have just not been recording, I would have seen that right away. But it's funny how your brain does not react to information in the same fashion when you're doing a live stream. It's really weird. And I've been doing this now for probably about 8 years. Yeah, 8 or 9 years. And it still can really throw me off a little bit. But this is bloom where you're planted. No property, no problem. You don't have to wait until you're settled to start gardening. And that's why I was hoping that Wendy would jump in, right? Because Wendy has just that porch where she can garden. My first apartment in Seattle was the size of a generous closet with no yard and no sunlight. I couldn't see the sky from my windows, only the brick expanse of the building next door. Since then, I've rented apartments of various sizes, a large house with friends, and a smaller house with my partner. From rental to rental, I was always waiting for the day when I could put down roots, literally. I'd tell myself I could get my hands dirty once I finally lived in a spot with a little bit of room to grow, where I could plant a garden that I'd tend over the years. Now, looking back, I wish I'd gardened all along, in community gardens or tight spaces, without waiting for that perfect plot. The average cost of a house in Seattle is $900,000. Can you imagine? Tammy can. Out of reach for many, including me, meaning I'll likely be a renter long term. That's just really something that would be, I've wondered, what does one do when one no longer has an income reliably and then they're still renting? That's an uncomfortable prospect in my mind. So I'm no longer satisfied with waiting. I'm ready to grow gardens I might have to leave behind, and to grow in such a way that I can take a few things with me when I go. Plus, even if I can't pack up the plants, at least I can take what I've learned, the lessons that come from sticking seeds in the ground and seeing how they grew where you live. You don't need to be a homeowner to harvest these lessons and bloom where you're planted. A movable garden. Scavenge supplies. At my last rental, once I was ready to get growing, the neighborhood provided much what I needed. In a densely populated urban setting, the materials you're looking for are likely not too far away. Keep your eyes peeled, and you might even find them in a giveaway pile lying on the side of the road. I found various containers, buckets, and garden tools by asking my Buy Nothing group, and it's www.buynothingproject.org. And so I'll throw that into the community for you guys. www.findingmyplace.org. Just kidding. Okay. www.buynothing. Yep, that's right. Project.org. All right. See if it's still doing great things here. Buy less, share more. Join the world's largest network of gifted communities. Reduce waste, save money, build community. What a neat little thing. And it is an app. You can get this on your phone, everyone. Also right here online, of course. And so I will put this into our yarn yard for tall tales. So that you guys can check that out. I'm definitely going to be checking it out. Neat little situation there. Okay. So she found, I think it's a woman. Yes, Amanda Sorrell is the author. She found things at Buy Nothing Group, which is the buynothingproject.org, by browsing Craigslist and offerup.com. Everybody's familiar with Craigslist, and Craigslist can have a kind of a negative name, so we won't put that one into the community, but let's check out www.offerup.com. A simpler way to buy and sell locally. Like an online yard sale is what it appears to be, right? Beatles vinyl records, vintage. I'm pretty sure my daughter got some of those from my mom. Speak of the maternal devil, right? All right. And so jumping back into where we were, once she'd gotten containers, buckets, and garden tools from those 3 online sources, buynothingproject.org, Craigslist is a .org apparently. I didn't realize that. I just don't use it ever. And offerup.com. So 2 .orgs and a .com. And visiting nearby antique malls, garage sales, and thrift stores. My partner salvaged untreated scrap wood from neighbors to build us a compost bin as well as a raised garden bed. Friends offered up old garden tools and seeds. Seattle also has numerous seed libraries, seed swaps, and plant sales. Absolutely, I believe that. They are very, very garden happy in Oregon and Washington. They do a lot of really great things up there. Soil was harder to acquire because I don't have a car and didn't want to grow directly in the dirt. At first, a friend with a bike trailer helped me haul bags of soil from our local hardwood store. Since then, I've had another friend with a truck deliver a load of compost and a load of soil that she required from a local landscape supplier. In exchange, I offered to house sit for her for free of charge while she was on vacation, and this barter granted me a truck bed's worth of rich earth to fill my containers and beds. If you live in a city, look for soil and compost giveaways organized by the city itself or community gardens. If you've got a way to get it home, you can load up low cost. Start small. I frequently see lovely photos of luscious gardens and want to do it all right away, regardless of being a renter. But lately, especially as I learn, I've been trying to be realistic about what I can handle and what I could move. That I hear very clearly. I was able to manage the garden that I set up at our last apartment, right? We lived in a sort of apartment setting in the last stick-built home that was broken into 2. But before that, when we were in a true apartment setting, I had a pretty decent-sized little porch and runners, or the garden, what do you want to call them? They're not really garden beds. They're decorative beds that you have outside of an apartment complex, right? And I had quite a bit. The problem was getting it moved was not feasible. And so that was where the problem really came in, to say enough, right? All right, where was the last thing we were talking about? Yes, okay, so that she could handle and what she could move. I sow fewer plants than the long list I fantasize about, and I grow in small and medium-sized containers I know I could lift at least onto a dolly. More focused growing allows me to dig deeply into the needs of a handful of plants at a time, learning about their soil, water, and sunlight requirements before gradually adding more to the roster. Each year, I record what worked and what didn't, and then I sow the same plants the following year while including a new plant or 2. In this way, I build familiarity slowly rather than trying to learn everything about every plant all at once. Try easy annuals. I've had raised beds at the last 2 places I've lived, and these garden beds are my go-to grounds for experimentation with annuals and herbs. I've started with plants that I know grow quickly and successfully in this region: calendula, greens, kale, nasturtiums, marigolds, and radishes. Using Mel Bartholomew's All New Square Foot Gardening as my guide, with its enticing tagline, grow more in less space, I've also grown a few crops that require less spacing. You can plant 9 beets per square foot, 16 carrots per square foot, and 16 onions per square foot. Plants that require less space don't automatically have higher yields, but I thought these plants were a good place to start. Plus, onions are my favorite vegetable, and from my years spent editing gardening advice, I knew I should plant what I'd eat. Yes, luckily my husband and children love beets because we got a bumper crop of beets one year, and I don't eat beets. Plant perennials in pots. Because I'm far more likely to take containers with me when I move than to dismantle and transplant entire garden beds, I plant perennials in pots so they can grant me a sense of permanence that my housing can't, returning year after year, no matter where they're placed. By observing what I see growing in parks and other people's yards, I've picked a few that have proven to be foolproof. Lavender, lemon balm, sage, stonecrops, and rosemary grow everywhere in the city, regardless of how well tended they are. So I've grown these in pots and watched them thrive without too much effort on my part. I can feel rooted in my relationship with these plants because I know they'll accompany me to my next location. I plant some annuals in containers too, of course, with no expectation of their permanence, yet still benefiting from their mobility. Being able to move them to sunnier spots in the yard works well when the buildings around me cast shade differently throughout the season. And both annual and perennial flowers in pots can add a splash of color wherever you place them. I found a trio of plastic planters on the side of the road, filled them with flowers, and settled them on the steps leading up to my front door. I appreciate their cheery greeting every time I arrive home. Tips for container gardening. Container size. Because I'm getting my containers secondhand, I mostly eyeball them. Big plants get big pots. I put 1 tomato plant in each of the biggest pots I have, 2 15-gallon pots. I agree with that. Quite a while ago, over 10 years ago or so, we tried to do the gallons that you could get from Walmart Bakery, the food grade gallons, and those are 5-gallon pots, and they did not do well. Now, had I picked a different variety, they might have succeeded, but I think a 15-gallon pot is a much better bet. So she has 1 tomato plant in each of the biggest pots she has, 2 15-gallon pots with a DIY trellis strung up behind them. I purchased 2 circular 4x4 by 1 foot galvanized still beds from Plant and Plot, and that's a .com, in which to plant cucumbers, peas, and squash with a trellis in the center of each. My herbs have thrived no matter what size pot I use, but some herbs, such as those in the mint family, will spread as far and wide as they can, so the bigger your container, the more you'll yield. Growing medium. Garden soil isn't recommended for a container garden as it's dense and can become too compact to allow for good airflow and water drainage. Use commercial soilless mixes, potting soils, or compost. Don't put gravel at the bottom, as that can also cause water to oversaturate the soil. But too little water can be an issue too. Containers won't retain as much water as in-ground gardens would, so if you're using traditional containers versus self-watering ones, you'll need to water more frequently, in some cases once a day. You may also need to use a fertilizer to replenish any nutrients that drain away. Try compost tea, and there's an article for that in this issue on page 20, and I forgot to repeat that. We read out of the last session, of course, but it's Mother Earth News, the August-September 2025 edition, right? Okay, and so continuing on, we were talking about page 20. Oh goodness, and I completely lost my place. Okay. Plants that like somewhat drier conditions, such as lavender, do well in pots. And while I do have to water some plants more, I get to weed a lot less. After a couple of seasons, I'll check my perennials to see if they need larger pots or if they can be divided and the growing medium replenished. Container location. I've situated my largest containers in full sun and won't move them throughout the season, but I love being able to relocate my smaller pots based on where sunlight is falling and other factors. Most of my potted perennials successfully overwinter outdoors, but you may live in a location where you'll want to nest smaller pots into larger ones for a bit of insulation or even overwinter them indoors if you have the space. Lessons learned. Part of growing a renter's garden means seeing it as a journey and not a destination. You're seeking an education instead of steady harvests year over year. Not all of my experiments with annuals have been successful, but I've learned a lot from my blunders. Planting too early, too late, or in late season shade I hadn't anticipated. I've also lost crops to aphids, heat waves, and my own inconsistent watering. 2 seasons ago, the carrots and onions I pulled out of the ground were miniature and not intentionally. The first time I planted cilantro, its leaves shriveled in a heat wave, much to my dismay. But it still went to seed, and I harvested handfuls of coriander for use in the kitchen. Despite the failure, I'd yielded my own spice. I no longer live beside the garden where I grew that cilantro, but what I learned about the plant will stay with me wherever I go. In addition to learning from the plants, you can learn a lot from other people. In 2022, I visited my grandma in South Dakota, where I helped her plant dahlias. We researched how to divide the tubers and then carefully tucked them into the soil along the side of her house. In 2023, I figured out that a neighbor's outdoor cats were using my raised bed as a litter box, so my partner helped me bend chicken wire into a makeshift removable lid that would keep them out. In 2024, a close friend visited to help me prepare my garden beds, and she showed me how to grow kale transplants with little trenches around them to hold extra water, since kale has somewhat shallow roots and can dry out quickly. None of these lessons required owning a home or tending to the same garden, and I won't have to leave this know-how behind. Also, there may be plants growing around your home that preceded you and that'll be there long after you're gone. Look to the bushes, trees, and weeds for your lessons. My current rental came with a mature elderberry tree and a large rosemary shrub. I've paid attention to their growth patterns and harvested from them to make elderberry syrup and flavor food, respectively. Creeping over and under every fence are the incessant blackberry brambles that grow invasively in the Pacific Northwest. I revel in the abundant berries, but I also have learned a lot about how to diminish, if not eliminate, their presence in my yard. And in other nooks and crannies around and near my home grow dandelions, fennel, sorrel, stinging nettle, and purple dead nettle. These plants belong to themselves as much as they belong to anyone. We don't need to own them to learn from them. Each year, I take detailed notes about what I forage and grow so I can remember those lessons the following year, always building on the wisdom offered by experience, which for me has been more enlightening than the years of reading that preceded it. Home is where the heart is. My final method of growing a garden that feels like home, even though I don't own it, is to incorporate elements that remind me of the people and places I love. My grandmother's favorite flower is the dahlia, so I plant these and think of her when I see them. As a child, I helped my mother in her garden, and I remember how excited we'd get to pull peas off the vine. So I'll plant those this year to relive that experience. I grow strawberries in honor of my namesake great-grandmother, who was well known for her strawberry patch. My friend who helped me plant the kale brought me some mums that I planted in pots. I grow nasturtiums because they were the first flower I ever ate right in front of the Topeka, Kansas building that houses Ogden Publications, the publisher of Mother Earth News. At a coworker's prompting, I pumped one into my mouth and fell in love with the peppery flavor. I get to keep these memories no matter where I am. I also incorporate garden decor that could make any garden of mine feel like home with hardly any setup. A do-it-yourself salvaged wood compost bin full of wriggling worms, sweet dragonfly wind chimes I found at an antique mall, large rocks my partner found to form a fire pit to sit around with friends, and bird feeders and bird baths to invite winged creatures to join the backyard revelry. Birds don't live in just one structure either, after all. Earth, air, fire, and water, these elemental touches will give me a sense of consistency and belonging in any setting. While owning the land does provide some security, change comes for all of us sooner or later. I try to embrace the changes while giving myself some anchors that'll ensure that each of my temporary homes will reflect what I like, what I've learned, and whom I love. And as for the plants I have to leave behind, I revel in the idea that I've left food and flowers for the next renters and other creatures to enjoy. That's really what it's all about. Very interesting take on it. I would definitely agree. It's probably pretty obvious from my stories of growing in an apartment situation. And so we are actually not going to be able to read a single thing about the Walipini. We're already at our time for the night. Do you guys have any questions about anything that we read? Any observations? Anything you would like to share? All right. Well, let's jump into our calendar here. And our next class is going to be tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Mountain, 8:30 p.m. Central, and 9:30 p.m. Eastern, exploring organic soil regeneration. And I hope you are all able to join in. Lots of great fun, lots of great stuff happening. Also, please make sure to RSVP to the all new Quit Together, which will start up this Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. 2:00 p.m. Pacific, 3:00 Mountain, 4:00 Central, and 5:00 Eastern. Bring whatever bad habit you're sick of, you're tired of it controlling you, and you want to move forward. Maybe bring more than one habit. There's no rules. Come in and let's quit together. Every time I hear that line, I think of the oh my gosh, I'm getting Planned Parenthood and Parent Trap. Parent Trap, the song, Let's Get Together, but Let's Quit Together, it's just in my head. So that's where the singing element of that event came from. I'm not sure if we'll keep that or not, if anybody else hears that in their head, but it's kind of an upbeat, community-based type of a song, and I thought it sort of fit our overall thought process of getting healthier together as a community, right? All right. Good night to you as well, Benny. Absolutely. Please feel free to unmute everyone and say good night.
Good
Buenas
night,
noches,
everyone.
Good night, guys.
everybody else. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Good
Yeah.
night.
Good night, everybody.